the thing that both of us, I think, played last night, you more than
Oh
me,
my. I lost my
Monster
evening.
Hunter Rise, which came out on Nintendo Switch yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I dabbled a little bit in Monster Hunter World, but nowhere near enough to kind of know. I wouldn't call myself a Monster Hunter like veteran,
Yeah.
not even close. So yeah, I played like the played the character creation and then
That
I
is a game
messed
in itself. Let's be honest. So
I messed around a lot in the tutorial area with different weapons.
yeah.
What did you get up to?
So just some quick context. My only experience with the Monster Hunter is nothing. Like I have zero experience with the Monster Hunter, and
I'm applying for
it's
this job with zero experience.
it's for the simple reason that I mean Monster Hunter as a franchise has been around for like more than a decades. I don't know. I don't know when the
I
first one
think
came
the
out.
first one was on PS2.
Yeah,
If
it's
I'm
a
not
long
mistaken.
time
Yeah.
ago. But it's been one of those games where it's kind of weird because you know the franchise. I think everyone has heard of Monster Hunter, but it's one of those franchises that before World was very much a thing of like, well, do you have a DS or a 3DS? Do you like, only if you've really had that console and if you've actually bought the game, would you know about that franchise? It seems like
Or a PSP
oh, a
or
PSP. Yeah, it seems very niche. Like I know it's not a niche game, but it feels like its player base is a lot smaller than
Well,
you'd expect.
it was primarily big in Japan.
Oh,
I
okay.
think,
So yeah, maybe in Japan it's
yeah,
big, but in the West, not the
yeah.
biggest
I mean,
selling
the
game.
games came out in the West, but to me it was really World that got
Yeah,
sort of like how Persona 5 got the
exactly.
West interested in Persona.
Yeah, so Monster Hunter World came out and it reviewed incredibly well. And shit, for like the years that followed, I know many people who loved the game. But what put me off about it is that thing of it's a long game. You can easily put 100+ hours into a Monster Hunter.
It's a Destiny.
And I was
it's like a hobby game.
as
Yeah.
much as I would love to play that game, I just can't see myself sitting at my desk doing that. Which is why Monster Hunter Rise on the Switch is a perfect jumping in point because it's a thing of like I'll obviously sit and play on the big screen, but I can then undock and go climb into bed. I can play on the go. I can play wherever, and that
You can
will
hunt
just help.
monsters while you poop.
you know, that is like just the fact that it's on Switch helps whittle away at that super long playtime, which is enticing to me. Like I played Breath of the Wild on Switch and I did everything because I had the option of playing it anywhere. So yeah, that's just my context. But I'm very excited to dive into Monster Hunter Rise. I played about I'd say like 3 to 4 hours yesterday. So same as you, going through the surprisingly detailed character creation
I
system.
spent so long on that character.
You spend
creator.
so long on your character only to find that you have to also customize your good doggo, only to find you have to customize your good cat, only to find that you also have a bird to customize.
Yep.
It's wild.
There's a lot happening. Yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty happening. But then the game, I suppose the premise is, 50 years ago there was a calamity and, a whole lot of monsters, appeared and stormed the village, whatever, and it seems like it's going to happen again. And that's the setup, I guess. I haven't gone beyond that. And you being this new person or just this person in this village who's like you've just become an official monster hunter, but you are known around as being the person who's like very proficient at different weapons and people like you.
You're hot shit, man.
You really are hot shit. Everyone you talk to is like, hey, how's it going? Oh, I'm so proud of you.
Everyone wants
like,
to be your friend.
Who
it's
are
crazy.
you, Jessica? Why are you even in this game? Yeah, but it sets you off on this path, very, very simple premise. But my God, does it bog you down with a shit ton of reading and tutorial? Well, not actually tutorials. Let's be honest. It gives you like it holds your hand through, I suppose, like the setup, some very basic things, but every step of the way, it's like here's a page or two of like what this means and what this means and what does that mean and this and that, and it doesn't actually force you into tutorial. Like there's a bare bones basic like, I suppose, like this is how you hunt, this is that, but you have to like actively seek out, additional tutorials. Like you don't know how to mount a monster unless you go and find the tutorial.
Mhm.
You don't get to play with each weapon unless you go seek out that area that lets you test out each weapon. So it's weird because I think you pointed out, and people that I've seen online have pointed out, that Monster Hunter Rise is actually, the most accessible of the entire franchise because it puts a lot of effort into explaining things, where I see it does, like there's a lot of text and stuff, but it still feels like, holy shit, there's a lot to take in. Like there
Yeah,
really is a lot to take in.
it's one of those things in games that I'm not a fan of, where they explain to you how to play the game through text but not through like action.
Yeah.
And I find that a very old school way of doing tutorials.
Yeah. I almost feel like, look, I think it is kind of like a very conscious choice of we know there will be veteran players. We don't want them to have to like sit through 3 hours of tutorials or like forced narrative, and I completely understand that. But it feels like a little bit more effort could have been done in just raw tutorials of like, because even the existing tutorials I have access to, it's like, okay, here's basic combat, here's how you mount a monster, and it's like 2 or 3 of them. But at no point does it say like, here's a tutorial for setting up traps, here's a tutorial for each weapon. Because even the testing area where you get to mesh on with each weapon, they don't tell you, like outside of combos, they don't say like, oh, hey, this weapon, you can actually do this and this and this with it. It's literally like, here are 3 combos.
And like, that's and initially you're like, oh, okay, so each weapon only has 3 combos. But then if you go read outside of the game, it's like, no, this weapon can do so much more than that. Yeah.
I mean, like I told you, I stuck with the starting weapon, which I think is the longsword they give to you right out the gate. And just so I didn't actively seek out different weapons. I was like, whatever, I'm just going to go do some hunts.
You didn't know the tutorial area existed?
I did not know the tutorial area existed. But that's my own issue. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a game issue, but that's debatable. But being forced to use that weapon, I learned just through using it like, oh, okay, I've got this combo, but if I use, like, they don't explain to you that, so you've got, I think it's, let me look at this. I always get the switch buttons confused. X and A are your attack buttons, right? The top one and the right one.
Depending on your weapon.
Depending on your weapon. But they don't tell you that the right shoulder button is used for like a special attack or to change form or whatever. So I figured out in using my longsword that if there's like a little bar that you fill up which lets you use the shoulder button to string up like other big attacks. Like, nowhere did it explain that to me. I just figured that out by myself. So it feels like it's still a bit of a steep learning curve.
I was also a bit confused at that because I didn't realize that little like sword bar
it
appears.
fills up and it actually does something.
so like sometimes I was mashing on the special and I was doing like 2 or 3 hits, and then sometimes it was only doing 1, and I was like, is this a timing thing? Like, am I just like not getting it right? And I realized, it's depending on how much energy I have in that bar, actually.
At one point, I figured that out, and then I kept on like building up the meter and using it. And then, I don't know what happened. I need to go read up on this, but it seems like I had some buff applied to me where my sword basically turned like semi-yellow. I was like, oh, okay, there's some depth here that I just don't know.
Okay.
Which, look, it's a thing of figuring it out or reading up on it, but it just feels like it could have still benefited from, let me go to the arena, here's a tutorial for each weapon. It just makes a lot of sense to me to introduce players that way. Because like, what's not immediately obvious with Monster Hunter is that there aren't any classes per se, but the weapon you choose is essentially your class, like to a degree. So yeah, like it's quite important to know which weapon you want to play with.
I feel like this also isn't a problem like unique to Monster Hunter. I mean, we played. I don't know how much you played of Neo 2, but Neo 2 is the exact same thing.
No, really.
Like it just throws you into. There's a tutorial area that you force through, where you have all the weapons and you can choose between them, and there it's a bit more dire because you have to choose your starting weapon
immediately.
Yeah, and it's like you can try them all out, but without really knowing what lies ahead, you can't really make an informed decision on what's a good one to take. So Yeah, I don't know. I've heard that a lot of the fun of Monster Hunter comes through experimentation with weapons, and that's what it is. It's like a pure combat game. Yeah,
it is. I mean, when that happened to me yesterday, is that like aha moments of like, oh, there's a bar here. It is a cool thing of like I retroactively figured out how to do that, but it's a thing of I don't know how many people are happy to stick that out. Like I just worry about newcomers who are like, oh cool, there's this awesome new Switch game. Holy shit, what is going on in this? Like it's
especially with the Switch selling like it has.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's a lot of people who are experiencing Monster Hunter for the first time. Because like we said, the series was big in Japan on PSP and then on 3DS. But like World was the first one that I even considered playing, and now Rise is the one that I'll actually play for quite a bit longer, I think.
Yeah.
That said, it is fun. Like
it is, 100%.
I messed around for like an hour, 2 hours just in the training area, just like messing around with new weapons and whatever. I've really liked the dual blades so far. I think they're very fun to use.
Yeah.
And like there are other weapons where I'm like, once I'm more comfortable with playing this game, then I can like see myself using them. Like the charge blade seems really fun to use. The insect glaive looks so fun, but like even just from the basic tutorial, I was like, wow, this looks like a complex weapon to use. It's like I need to mark an enemy, then I need to like build up like charges. Then there's this bug flying around. Then I can like boomerang myself into the fucking air and do stuff. It looks cool, but I have no idea.
You have no idea how to use it.
Yeah.
But look, so out the gate, the game seems very complex, which it is. Like there's a lot of depth there. But that being said, there's a reason I went to bed very late last night, because like I told you, I did a hunt. I was like, it's midnight. I'm getting up early tomorrow, but I'm just going to do one more hunt. And that's
already got its hooks in you.
That's where the danger of such a game lies. Of like, holy shit, like I'm having a lot of fun. Even like I've done 2 or 3 hunts, but even that, I'm really getting to the swing of, it's a thing of you find your big monster, your prey, you chip away at them, they run away. You go, you hunt them down, you get buffs along the way, you fight them again, they run away. Like I'm getting into that loop of understanding how the game works, because even like the movements take some getting used to as well. Like it's not, I can't put my finger on it. It's almost like it's intentionally methodical, and you have to be very conscious with everything you do. Not so much like you can't just mash roll and like get an attack in and roll away. Like you have to be very aware of what you're doing, because if you misstep, like you will get punished.
Yeah. No, it's extremely, it almost feels slow in that regard, but it's because it's like, once you press, you're locked into that. Like, but I think, a very Souls-like thing almost.
Yeah, I think like there's a reason you and I like the dual blades, because to me, I think that's the quickest weapon. It's probably, it lets you be the most agile, like in my very brief experience. And that's coming off games like Bloodborne or Dark Souls, where like you want to be aggro in the enemy's face. Whereas the slower weapons, I'm almost reluctant to play them, because I'm like, oh my god, like this thing takes so long to charge up. But I am seeing that like monsters do have tiny gaps between their attacks. Like you just have to take advantage of them.
Yeah, it's all about finding that opportunity and like what combo can I pull off in this opportunity. And I think when you play in multiplayer, that will become super interesting, because now like when you and I play, we have different weapons, so our openings are completely different.
Yeah.
And then there's village and hub quests, which so village progresses the story, and those are strictly solo, and then hub are the multiplayer. Well, you can play them solo.
Yeah. But could be like me.
Yeah, you can take 50 minutes to kill a monster.
I had fun. It was good fun.
But yeah, so like imagine we go on a hunt where you've got like the long sword and I've got like the light bowgun or something. I can place traps and do damage from afar and apply stuns.
Yeah,
which opens up more gaps for you. So I can see that being such a fun thing to kind of like experiment and synergize with.
Yeah, but look, I've only played the opening hours, but it's good fun. Like I can see myself getting consumed by this game. And shit, like even the fact that last night I was already like, oh, just one more hunt. Like that's the power of Switch, because I just climbed into bed and I carried on playing.
It is the power of the Switch.
It is the power
what a
of
great
Switch.
console.
It's a good time.
Cool console. I was playing just handheld yesterday because I need to set up. I meant to capture footage last night and then I couldn't find my capture card. So that's going to be my Saturday after this. Is like,
nice.
After the move, like, where did I put my capture card? Because I haven't used it yet.
You're like, I can't find this. I'm going to go make myself a frozen pizza. Oh, shit. How did this boxy get in here?
Yeah, it's just in my freezer. Oh
okay, cool, man.
Yeah, so I got to find that and set that up. So I was just playing handheld, and it feels great on handheld. I think it runs really well. It looks really nice as well, I think.
There was something about the demo. Look, I could be wrong. I think it's been obviously optimized since then, but I think the demo was a bit like, this game seems a bit... There's something also, again, like, can't put my finger on it, but it felt a bit off. Like, I don't know. I can't tell you why. I just felt the visual. I was like, doesn't look 100%.
Something's wrong, yeah.
But I think on the actual release, I look at it now, I'm like, damn, it runs really well and it looks great. Look, it's not like, don't expect The Last of Us 2 visuals, obviously. Like,
of course not.
I think the style's almost like Lenska said, it almost looks a bit cartoony. Like, it's not entirely a cartoon, but there's like a distinct, almost like anime-ish style to it, and it just runs really nicely.
There's so much nice color in it as well.
I
think it really pops.
A lot of saturation.
How long did you spend looking at those two cats that were just pounding that dough thing?
I was more distracted by the cats in the... Is it the hub room, whatever it's called, where they're busy like hitting the gong, I think it is.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Can I just say, I love the idea that in this world, the dogs and cats are like these highly intelligent creatures who like aid you. I mean, I don't think you've done any hunts yet, but when you're on a hunt, your palico, or what are the dogs? Is it palamute?
Palamute, yeah.
They I don't know if they both have comments, but I know on the right, like, they comment on what's happening. They'll be like, oh, hey, like, your prey's down, for example. Like, now, or they're tired out. It's time to attack, whatever. But the game has so many puns throughout, which is just 10 out of 10 for me.
All the palicos are like, hey, I can speak English, but I'm going to throw a meow in there every now and then just to keep you on your toes.
It's like, hey, you see that area over there? You can go hire some mercenaries. I'm like,
just like, God damn it.
I approve. Yeah, but look, we've both played. This game's long. We know
this is scratching the surface.
We've barely scratched the surface.
I think GameSpot gave it a 9 out of 10.
Nice.
And that's a review in progress, and they played for like 25 hours already.
Which is like nothing still.
And
like
even
25
then,
hours
still
is a
have
lot,
to get the end game,
But so we haven't even... I've looked at the blacksmith and gone, okay, there's a shit ton of like upgrade options here. I can do armor, this and that. I haven't actually experimented.
Holy crap, there's a lot to dig into.
I mean, so like just before we bounce off, but like the loop of Monster Hunter essentially is you go hunt a monster, you get their parts, you use those parts to build better armor and upgrade your weapons. You go hunt bigger monsters, you use their parts to, you get the picture, you get into that loop of just leveling up. And that's why it's so addictive, I guess, because you just, it's that RPG itch that just gets scratched up. Like you're just gradually seeing your damage numbers get higher and higher. You're facing harder threats. You're learning how to use traps and weapons and whatever. I mean, and it gets even deeper than that, where you have to consider like, what elements is the monster weak to? What elements do they use so that I have armor that's strong against that? So there's a lot. So
you actually feel like you're preparing for your target. You're not just like, well, I'm a hero and I will like brute force my way through this enemy. It's like,
no, they actually make a pretty strong point of, like, everyone you talk to is often like, hey, always remember to prepare for a hunt, because like that's half the battle.
Yes.
And like it's, I suppose we haven't really touched on that, but the way hunts work, you basically get dropped into like a specific hub, well, not a hub, or like a map, I guess, like this big map that has a whole lot of different areas, and the monsters are roaming around, whatever. So you basically have to mount your palamute and ride to them. But on the way, you can find a whole lot of like flora or wildlife that gives you a health boost, or gives you a stamina boost. And you should, by all means, like pick up that stuff on your way, or actively seek it out before you fight the monster. I think where we are now, like obviously early stages, it's not such a big deal. But I think as you get into the more difficult battles, you have to really take some time to prepare. Even the stuff you eat, it's like, oh, that can give you different buffs.
Yeah, that's like completely different way of playing. Yeah. I'm keen to like get stuck into it properly this weekend, because now that I've nothing else to kind of play that's on my plate, like I can actually dedicate time to it.
We'll play.
And playing it at launch is great, because like I played World a few months afterwards, and a lot of people had bounced off it from then. So I think playing with people who are like learning at the same pace as you is going to be fun.
The only thing I don't quite know is because you don't. Do you have a level? Like I think your companions have levels. I don't know if you get like a gear score or a weapon score, but like
I'm not sure.
Say you've played for 30 hours and then now some friend who's just got the game wants to play. Like, how does it balance out? I don't know.
I think I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that the hunts are leveled. Okay. So like if you're going on this hunt, then
they are
you should be.
You.
Yeah, you should be this tier. Otherwise, this monster's just going to like one hit you and that's it. So I think that's how they do it. It's like you don't have an intrinsic XP level. Your gear is your level, so to speak.
Okay.
Which is how a lot of these games, like Destiny, works exactly the same way.
Yeah, you get like a light score or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, you level up just as like almost like a basic tutorial, get your powers. And once you're there, then it's all about your gear.
So that's Monster Hunter Rise. I'm sure we are going to talk about that for many weeks to come as we dig deeper and deeper into it.
We will be publishing some videos on that very soon as well. And are you streaming it? Well, okay. Well, if you're listening to this on Monday, you would have streamed it.
Yeah, I might do a stream later. I'll see.